Ursula Andress, the name that evokes the image of a woman emerging from the turquoise sea in Dr. No, 1962, piercing eyes, wet tangled hair, and a confidence that never flinched before the camera. That moment didn't just create the first Bond girl in history. It redefined what beauty and female power meant on screen. Yet behind that perfect scene, few knew that Ursula was not born into luxury, nor was any red carpet ever rolled out to welcome her. She grew up in a cold Swiss countryside, where her father was exiled for political reasons, leaving her mother and herself in quiet hardship. From a young age, Ursula learned that survival meant being stronger than anyone else. She left home for Paris, then Rome, working as a nanny, a model, and eventually daring her way into the film industry like a wanderer chasing freedom. And it was that very daring spirit that took her to the top, and later led her life down paths marked by heartbreak. Behind the spotlight were broken marriages, tearful romances, and a loneliness that clung to her for decades. She was once the legend the world adored, but also the woman who paid the highest price for living life entirely on her own terms. Born on March 19, 1936, in the small town of Ostermundigen near Bern, Switzerland, Ursula Andress was the third of 6 children in a strict German family. Her father, a German diplomat, abruptly vanished from their lives when Ursula was only 4, after being expelled from Switzerland amid the tense political climate of the pre-war years. Her mother, a devout and resilient Swiss woman, was left to raise 6 children alone in harsh conditions, surrounded by snowy mountains and endless winters. Ursula's childhood was one of silence and emptiness. She grew up in a world where discipline came before emotion, where the sound of the wind across the white hills was more familiar than laughter at home. Yet it was precisely this closed, rigid environment that forged in her a powerful inner strength and an unrelenting desire to escape the suffocating calm of her surroundings. During her school years in Bern, Ursula wasn't the most outstanding student, but she was the one everyone remembered. Intelligent and gifted with languages, she spoke German, French, and Italian. 3 keys that would later open the door to a world far beyond the small village she longed to leave behind. She loved art, drawing, music, and cinema, though she rarely shared her dreams with anyone. In such a strict household, being an artist was never considered a respectable path. At 16, Ursula left boarding school with a small suitcase and a fierce determination to find freedom. She traveled to Paris, then Rome, with no family, no money, relying only on her wits and her striking beauty. She worked first as a nanny, then as a photo model to survive. In Rome, a city where art and chaos intertwined, Ursula began to attract the attention of Italian photographers and filmmakers. They saw not only her beauty, but also the rare confidence and depth in her gaze. Those years taught her a hard truth. No one is born a legend. She had to write her destiny herself, step by step, from the classrooms of Bern to the small film sets of Rome, from a shy mountain girl to a woman unafraid to face the camera. And that was only the beginning of the journey that would make the world remember the name Ursula Andress. In the mid-1950s, when Rome had become the Hollywood of Europe, Ursula Andress began her turbulent journey into cinema. In 1954, she made a fleeting appearance in An American in Rome, a role so small her name didn't even appear in the credits. But it marked the first time her face appeared on screen. With her deep eyes and calm demeanor, she managed to make an impression in just a few frames, as if destiny were whispering that this was where she truly belonged. A year later, Ursula appeared in 2 Italian films, Sins of Casanova and La Catena dell'Odio, 1955. Though her roles were minor, directors began to notice something different about the Swiss girl. a beauty that wasn't merely decorative, but capable of evoking emotion, even obsession. On set, Ursula was still shy, learning how to move in front of the camera, how to deliver lines with rhythm, and most importantly, how to hold her confidence in a male-dominated environment where women were often treated as ornaments for the film. That small success brought her to Hollywood. Paramount Pictures, then one of the biggest studios in the world, signed her to a 7-year contract, a move that seemed poised to launch her career. But the American dream quickly turned into a trial. In Los Angeles, Ursula felt lost. She barely spoke English, was unfamiliar with the industrial pace of studio production, and struggled under the scrutiny of producers. Paramount insisted she take intensive language lessons, but Ursula refused. She didn't want to be molded, didn't want to become another clone of the studio-trained starlets being mass-produced at the time. That act of defiance got her contract frozen. No roles, no publicity, no paycheck. For 2 years, Ursula virtually disappeared in the heart of Hollywood, surviving on small savings and sheer willpower. It was then that she experienced the bitter truth of the industry. Hollywood could make someone a star overnight, or erase them without warning. Yet in that silence, Ursula cultivated what would later become her signature, an icy composure. While others chased fame, she chose patience, holding fast to her European identity. That stubborn independence, which once seemed self-defeating, would soon make Hollywood remember her, in a role no one could have predicted. One that would forever change how the world viewed women on screen. Her chance came in 1962, when the producers of Dr. No happened to see her photograph in a European magazine. No screen test, no recommendation, just that face, which convinced them they had found the woman who could make cinematic history for James Bond. Ursula was cast as Honey Rider, a small role with few lines, yet the soul of the film. The now iconic scene of her emerging from the Caribbean Sea in a white bikini, holding seashells and a hunting knife, wasn't in the original script. It was her own idea, meant to make the character appear both primal and independent. The scene lasted only seconds, but became one of the most unforgettable images in world cinema. Although her dialogue was dubbed due to her heavy Swiss accent, Ursula's power came not from words, but from presence. The steady gaze, the strong posture, and the rare freedom she radiated, something few women of that era were allowed to show. When Dr. No premiered, it not only made Sean Connery a star, but catapulted Ursula Andress to global fame. She won the Golden Globe for Most Promising Newcomer, a rare honor for someone outside the Hollywood system. The film grossed over $59 million worldwide, a massive figure for its time, and launched the James Bond franchise that would endure for more than 6 decades. But that spotlight was also a gilded cage. Ursula became typecast as the seductive woman, a sex symbol adored by the public, but mocked by the press. They nicknamed her Ursula Undress, a pun that simultaneously praised and belittled her, implying her fame came more from undressing than acting. After that dazzling success, Ursula faced the classic paradox of every icon, being celebrated for something she never intended and misunderstood for the very beauty that made the world fall in love with her. At 26, she stood on the fragile line between art and glamour, and began to realize that in Hollywood, everything beautiful comes at a price. After Dr. No, Ursula Andress became the most sought-after name in both Europe and Hollywood. Offers poured in, and within just a year she was sharing the screen with some of the most powerful leading men of her time. In 1963, Ursula starred in Fun in Acapulco alongside Elvis Presley. A colorful musical set against the backdrop of Mexico, where she played a woman who was not only beautiful but also intelligent, far from the one-dimensional Bond girl stereotype. Elvis was a global icon, and when the two appeared together on screen, audiences called it a storm of beauty and fame. The film grossed over $7 million and became one of the box office hits of the year, but Ursula still felt she hadn't truly been challenged as an actress. That same year, she appeared in Four for Texas with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, two Las Vegas legends, though the atmosphere on set was far from pleasant. Tensions ran high among the stars. Sinatra was famously temperamental, and Ursula, being outspoken, refused to back down. It was then she realized that in American cinema, a woman's independence could easily be treated as a crime. By 1965, Ursula left Hollywood and returned to Europe in search of roles with more substance. There she shone in She, a fantasy adventure film where she played Aisha, an immortal queen ruling over a desert kingdom, mysterious and commanding. The role helped her break free from the shadow of Dr. No, proving she could lead a film without relying on the Bond image. She became a major hit in the UK and Italy, re-establishing Ursula as an international star. Soon after, she starred opposite Marcello Mastroianni in The 10th Victim, 1965, a futuristic sci-fi satire where Ursula portrayed a cold-blooded assassin in a deadly game of human hunting. The film stirred controversy for its violence and eroticism, but was praised for its daring ideas and avant-garde style. Ursula became the embodiment of feminine power in a sensual form, dangerous yet magnetic. In 1967, she returned to the spy genre with Casino Royale, a star-studded James Bond parody with a record-breaking salary. It was the highest pay of her career, cementing her status as an independent star. The film grossed nearly $40 million worldwide, and though critics were divided, Ursula's charm and ability to command every frame kept her unforgettable. By the late 1960s, she continued her steady career with Anyone Can Play, 1968, and The Southern Star, 1969. Though not blockbusters, these films reflected Ursula's artistic choices. She no longer chased fame, only roles that intrigued her. While many actresses of her generation struggled under the pressure of age and industry prejudice, Ursula slowed down, living between Rome and Paris, taking photographs, reading, and occasionally returning to the screen. It was a period of rare freedom, in a world that always tried to trap beautiful women within the frame. As the 1970s began, Ursula Andress was an established international star, but rather than clinging to Hollywood, she chose her own path, returning to Europe to take creative risks. Amid the new wave cinema boom in Britain, France, and Italy, Ursula ventured into roles far removed from the Bond girl archetype. Perfect Friday, 1970, marked a turning point, a stylish heist film opposite Stanley Baker, where she played a woman both clever and manipulative. Critics praised the film's social satire and Ursula's sophisticated allure, recognizing that she could act with cool intelligence and subtle control, not merely with beauty. She followed with Red Sun, 1971, a Franco-Japanese Western co-starring Charles Bronson, Alain Delon, and Toshiro Mifune, three of cinema's most masculine icons. Amid the harsh landscapes of the Wild West, Ursula played Christine, the lone woman in a man's world, both a spark for tragedy and the ultimate survivor. The role broke her free from the blonde doll stereotype, showcasing her resilience and toughness in an industry rarely kind to women. But boldness came with a price. From 1969 through the late 1970s, Ursula appeared in a series of erotic-tinged European films: The Sensuous Nurse, 1975, Spasmo, 1974, State Line Motel, 1973. where the line between art and provocation was deliberately blurred. In The Sensuous Nurse, she played a seductive caretaker to a wealthy patient. The film became a hit in Italy but earned her a mocking nickname in the Western press: Ursula Undress. They hailed her as a symbol of sexual liberation, while simultaneously reducing her to Europe's striptease beauty. Beneath that glamorous facade, however, lay a quiet loneliness, for Ursula knew that every semi-nude scene made her more famous, yet further from the meaningful roles she once longed for. In 1978, while filming on the French coast, Ursula broke her arm. Newspapers called it a surfing accident, but rumors swirled that it stemmed from a violent argument with actor Ryan O'Neal, with whom she was romantically involved at the time. The story was never confirmed, but it reminded the public that behind her calm beauty was a life marked by conflict and unspoken pain. In the early 1980s, she returned to mainstream cinema with Clash of the Titans, 1981, portraying Aphrodite, the goddess of love. The film became one of the decade's most successful mythological epics, grossing over $40 million and restoring Ursula's image of elegance and power. Beauty no longer raw, but ethereal and iconic. Yet that renewed glory was short-lived. By the mid-1980s, Ursula gradually transitioned to television, appearing in miniseries such as Falcon Crest, 1988, playing a glamorous guest role, sophisticated, graceful, but a shadow of her former self. As time passed, opportunities dwindled. Cinema had changed. Newer audience no longer cared for the golden icons of the 1960s. Friends later described Ursula during this period as lonelier than ever, not because fame had faded, but because the world around her had moved on, while she chose not to change. In the 1990s, Ursula appeared sporadically, mostly in small European films from Italy and Switzerland. Yet her legacy continued to be celebrated. In 1995, Empire magazine ranked her among the 100 sexiest stars in film history, placing her alongside Marilyn Monroe and Brigitte Bardot, a belated but meaningful recognition. Her final credited role came in the Swiss independent film Die Vogelpredigt oder das Schreien der Mönche, 2005, closing a career that had spanned over half a century. Afterward, Ursula quietly withdrew from the spotlight, settling between Rome and Lake Geneva, where she could watch the sunrise without any camera following her. And though the stage lights have long gone dim, the name Ursula Andress still glimmers, a symbol of an era when beauty and courage could make the whole world hold its breath. Fame could take Ursula Andress anywhere, but it also brought losses that only those who have loved deeply can understand. Before she became the goddess rising from the sea, she was once a young wife who loved so fiercely that she lost her freedom. The man who changed the course of her life and left the deepest wound was John Derek. In the late 1950s, she met John Derek, an American actor and director with a handsome face, quiet demeanor, and unreadable eyes. They met at a party in Rome, where Derek, already a married man, was captivated by Ursula's beauty, a mix of Swiss coolness and untamed sensuality. Ursula, newly arrived in Hollywood and still clumsy with her English, saw in him a rare kind of protection in a foreign world. Their romance began quickly, a whirlwind of passion and scandal. They married in 1957 despite harsh criticism over Derek's divorce to wed her. The couple soon became one of Hollywood's most glamorous, beautiful, sensual, and constantly followed by paparazzi. Derek wasn't just her husband, he was the architect of her early image. He photographed her for publicity, encouraged her to take bolder roles, and helped shape her into the goddess that Hollywood had never seen before. But that same control gradually turned their love into a gilded cage. Ursula loved Derek passionately, but in their marriage, she paid the price of losing the very thing she valued most: her freedom. They had no children. Ursula was consumed by her career, while Derek's jealousy grew unbearable. Whenever she was invited to film abroad, he often followed, not only to protect her, but to keep watch. What began as passion slowly turned into control and conflict. By the mid-1960s, as Ursula's fame soared after Dr. No, the distance between them became unbridgeable. Derek couldn't stand seeing his wife worshipped by the world, while she longed to define herself beyond him. Arguments became routine. Silence replaced affection. In 1966, after nearly a decade together, their marriage ended. Derek left, and soon after married a young actress, Bo Derek, whom he would later mentor, much as he had done with Ursula. For Ursula, the divorce was a deep wound. She spoke little of it, but she carried the feeling that she had lost a part of herself, the part that once believed love could coexist with ambition. From then on, she no longer trusted relationships built under the glare of fame. Behind the proud beauty, Ursula was a woman who had lived through a love that blurred the line between passion and power. She was adored as a symbol, but had to learn to leave as a human being, carrying both pain and the freedom she had fought to reclaim. After her exhausting marriage to John Derek, Ursula took a long time to heal. She left Hollywood and returned to Europe, where everything had begun, finding herself again through travel, small film projects, and long stretches of solitude between Rome, Paris, and Bern. Yet fate had its own way of bringing her back to love, this time with Jean-Paul Belmondo, the legendary French actor. They met in 1965, right after Ursula finished filming She, while Belmondo was at the height of his fame with Breathless and Pierrot Le Faux. Between them, there was no pretense of stardom, only a meeting of two souls who had both been consumed by the world and now found in each other a quiet kind of peace. Belmondo was enchanted by Ursula's mix of aloofness and wildness, while she found in him something she had never known before: respect. They lived together for 7 years, between two worlds: Paris, the city of artistic freedom, and Rome, the realm of cinematic glamour. Belmondo didn't want Ursula to be just a screen beauty. He urged her to take more challenging roles, helping her regain confidence in her craft. In return, Ursula became his muse. Several directors noted that whenever she appeared on set, Belmondo's acting seemed to come alive. But love between two stars always comes at a cost. The press hounded them constantly, dubbing them Europe's most beautiful couple and dissecting every trip, every hand held. Belmondo valued freedom, while Ursula, scarred by years of control, feared being confined again. Their fiery passion gradually gave way to quiet distance. She refused to abandon her career, while he, proud and possessive, wanted a woman who belonged only to him. By 1972, they separated quietly. No arguments, no public statement, just two people who had loved each other deeply, realizing they were now walking in different directions. Later in life, when Ursula spoke of Belmondo, her eyes softened. No bitterness, no regret. He was, she said, the only man who ever made her feel loved without having to lose herself. When Belmondo passed away years later, friends said Ursula wept, quietly, away from the public eye. Perhaps because, though she had known many loves, only with him did she ever truly believe that love and freedom could exist side by side. After her relationship with Jean-Paul Belmondo ended, Ursula Andress entered one of the quietest phases of her life. She withdrew from glamorous parties, chose only film projects that felt meaningful, and spent more time in seclusion between Rome and the shores of Lake Geneva. Yet fate wasn't finished with her. In her early 40s, when many believed Ursula no longer believed in love, she met a man 15 years her junior, Harry Hamlin. They met on the set of Clash of the Titans, 1981, where Ursula played the goddess Aphrodite and Hamlin portrayed Perseus, the young, heroic warrior. At first, the age gap drew curious stares from the crew, but they quickly brushed off the attention. Amid the mythical Greek sets, long days under the sun, and scenes filled with epic grandeur, Ursula felt in Hamlin a warmth and genuine admiration she hadn't experienced in years. For Hamlin, she wasn't just a legendary star, she was a deeply intelligent, soulful, and radiant woman. Their love blossomed naturally and without secrecy. The press called it a love story between two generations, but they didn't care. In 1980, Ursula became pregnant at 44, something she herself never expected. When their son Dimitri was born, it was the first time Ursula felt a pure happiness unconnected to fame or the spotlight. She told friends that for the first time in her life, she didn't need anyone to look at her. She only needed that child's smile. However, their differences soon surfaced. Harry Hamlin was a young actor eager to build his career, while Ursula had already seen the peaks of fame and now longed for peace. When Hamlin began taking on major projects in the United States, Ursula chose to stay in Europe, bringing Dimitri back to Switzerland, a place she believed her son could grow up close to nature, far from the noise of Hollywood. That distance, though no one's fault, slowly pulled them apart. They separated in 1983, quietly and without bitterness. Ursula and Hamlin remained friends, co-parenting Dimitri over the years. For her, Hamlin wasn't the last love, but the one who gave her the greatest gift of her life. In a world that had made her sacrifice so much, this time she was given something back, a pure love, and a child to walk beside her for the rest of her days. In the years that followed, whenever she appeared in public, Ursula was often seen holding Dimitri's hand, a boy whose eyes mirrored hers from her youth. In that gaze, there was no trace of the Bond girl legend, only the calm of a woman who had finally understood that glory fades, but unconditional love endures. After parting ways with Harry Hamlin, Ursula Andress was no longer the dazzling star of the 1960s and 1970s, but a mature woman who knew exactly what she wanted. She no longer sought fame, nor did she dream of loud romances. But life, in its familiar irony, led her into another unexpected chapter. A relationship with Fausto Fagone, a young Italian photographer more than 20 years her junior. They met in the late 1980s during a photo shoot in Rome. Fausto wasn't part of the film world, but he had an artist's eye, sensitive, respectful, and perceptive enough not to see Ursula as merely the legendary Bond girl. After so many years under the camera's gaze, she saw in Fausto something rare, a man who looked at her as if time had never passed. Between them, there were no lights, no glamour, only two people sharing a passion for art and a simple way of seeing life. The European press was fascinated by their romance. They called Ursula the ageless goddess, and Fausto, the boy from an old dream. But to Ursula, it wasn't a story about age. It was about the joy of living authentically after years of playing roles for others. They traveled across Europe together, from the small villages of Tuscany to the serene shores of Lake Geneva, where Ursula had bought a small house overlooking the water. She told friends that life with Fausto was the quiet I've been searching for all my life. Yet, as with all her loves, peace didn't last forever. The generation gap, their differing visions of the future, and the weight of public scrutiny gradually wore down their bond. Ursula wanted stability and a home. Fausto was still chasing his photography career and a life on the move. They parted in the early 1990s, gently, without drama or tears, like two friends who realized their journey together had come to an end. But for Ursula, Fausto Fagone was more than a late romance. He was the one who reminded her that at any age, the human heart can still tremble, not from fleeting desire, but from the longing to feel alive once more. After everything, Ursula didn't choose solitude as tragedy, but as freedom. She kept the warm memories, tucking them into a quiet corner of her soul, a place where, even without anyone beside her, she still felt loved. When Ursula Andress entered her 70s, she was no longer the eternal Bond girl, frozen in the audience's memory, but a woman wiser, calmer, and freer than ever before. After half a century of living under the spotlight, and through loves that glittered and faded, she had finally learned to listen to her own body. And that was when life began to test her in a different way. One mild fall while gardening at her Beverly Hills home led to an unexpected discovery. She had osteoporosis. At first, Ursula dismissed it as a minor sign of aging, but when doctors warned that even a small slip could leave her bedridden, she knew she could no longer ignore it. Instead of complaining, she chose to face it. She began therapy, maintained a regular exercise routine, followed a healthy diet, and shared her experience to encourage other older women to care for their bone health. For Ursula, taking control of her treatment wasn't just about staying fit. It was about protecting her freedom of movement, something she had always considered the essence of life itself. The woman who once rose from the sea still walked on her own 2 feet, slower now perhaps, but never weaker. In 2017, she sold her Beverly Hills villa, a home that had once welcomed names like Sean Connery and Roger Moore. Her decision to leave America wasn't driven by sadness, but by a longing to return to where everything began. She chose Rome and Gstaad, Switzerland, as her refuge. One a city of art, the other a peaceful alpine village. There, she needed no schedule, no cameras. Only her son, Dimitri. Simple meals, morning walks in the fog, and the serenity of nature that made her soul feel at peace. The Ursula Andress of old age carries a different aura. Composed, reclusive, yet never lonely. She still paints, still takes photographs, still keeps her old pictures as fragments of a life well lived. Whenever someone asks if she misses the spotlight, Ursula just smiles. For her, the light was never on stage. It has always been in the simplest things. Her son's warmth, the scent of grass after rain, and the quiet of afternoons by the Alps. Today, when people speak of Ursula Andress, they no longer mention only the woman who emerged from the sea in Dr. No, but also a symbol of freedom, pride, and resilience. She stands as living proof of a generation of women who broke the mold, the first to redefine the Bond girl, not as an accessory beside a man, but as an independent character with depth, strength, and the desire for freedom. From that moment onward, cinema stopped seeing women only through their beauty and began seeing them through the way they walked, spoke, and existed. Ursula never left behind a vast filmography like some of her peers, but every role she played carried her unmistakable signature, from the mythic sensuality of She, the satire of Casino Royale, to the soft elegance of Aphrodite in Clash of the Titans. She never won the grand golden statues, yet her legacy lies in the gaze that millions still remember, that look which made the world pause for a moment. Her iconic emergence from the sea has become one of cinema's most timeless images, recreated countless times, from Halle Berry in Die Another Day to Margot Robbie in tributes to classic Hollywood. But Ursula Andress's greatest legacy isn't on film. It's in the way she lived after leaving the stage. She chose quiet over competition, freedom over fame, love and family over illusionary applause. In a world obsessed with youth, Ursula proved that true beauty doesn't fade with time. It transforms into stillness, dignity, and gratitude. Now, nearing 90, she no longer appears in public, but her name continues to echo in every conversation about the woman who changed Hollywood. Her image, the Swiss girl who left a small village, endured heartbreak, illness, loneliness, yet never lost her smile, has become a spiritual legacy the world will never forget. Ursula Andress is more than a symbol of beauty. She's a symbol of vitality, proof that allure doesn't come from youth, but from the courage to live, to love, and to walk through time with eyes that still shine as brightly as they did at the beginning. What do you think of Ursula Andress's journey, the woman who once made the world hold its breath, yet ultimately sought only a peaceful life? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to hit like to honor a legend who still lives on in our memory.